Mental health and well-being is enhanced by collaborative partnerships which depend on good communication. Effective communication between educators and parents builds trust and a shared understanding which helps foster respectful relationships. Effective communication begins from your first contact. So reflecting on whether your communication strategies are flexible, open and inviting, and inclusive of all families will help you build effective partnerships.
Effective communication is a really critical part of a partnership with families. Without a sense of commitment and the realisation of communication in a partnership, the partnership doesn't exist. It's not able to work if we haven't made a commitment to communicate.
So knowing how to welcome families into services, really listening to families rather than just saying, yeah, sure, thanks, and then moving on, but actually taking that information that families give to you in the morning about their child and really using that information and passing on to your other educators to ensure that that you're actually benefiting from that information.
Well, when it comes to communication with the educators, I think the most important thing for me is knowing that they will make the time for the conversation, and I know how busy they can be. But it's just maybe simple things like if I'm calling the director, the fact that the director will, return the call reasonably quickly, which is pretty much always the case, or going into the room if there's a particular educator I want to talk to because maybe I feel more comfortable with them, that they will make an effort to either speak to me on the spot or to say, can we talk about it tomorrow morning, or to make a time. So taking the time to have the conversation, I think, is the most important thing for me. That's number one.
So there are some things that really help the communication with families. I think one of the things that often you begin with is to make sure you can ask questions and listen well to what's happening with the parents and carers that are looking after the child at home. And that's important because it conveys that you're interested in what they are bringing in, and you're also expecting that they have expertise in their own child. And that value communicates that you respect and understand what the parents bring. That's going to foster you a better relationship with the parents and to bring about that connection around looking after the child. So asking questions and exploring and listening well is going to be an important initial component of that. It's also going to be about providing some, information about what's happening.
So when educators are communicating with families, the families need to feel that they're seen and that they're appreciated. So it's a little bit like the starting point when a child comes in to join a group. When you're coming into someone, can you come in with a kind face or a nice tone of voice that sounds welcoming? Can you just look up at the parent and make contact to just ensure that they're with you before the thing is that you're going to tell them that next?
I have a great bond with the service. I think that the educators are very responsive. If I have a question, I'm easy, I can go and ask them anything. If there's something going on at home, I'd go and talk to them about it. They're very open. They would, if it was private, they would take me into another room.
Obviously you have to take into account the fact that different families will appreciate different kinds of communication. I mean, different families have different preferences. Some families have a language other than English as their first language. Some families prefer electronic communication. Some prefer face-to-face communication. So I think when it comes to getting feedback, one size fits all doesn't apply, and you need to offer a variety of ways.
It is also interesting to note that for some families there are particularly key people that you need to communicate with. So if it's an extended family, a big, say an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander family who's a big extended family, you might need to say, we need to get the grandmother involved in this process as well. So to communicate in different ways that are culturally appropriate as well as contextual for the particular family. And I often say to educators, look around you in your staff team and identify someone who you think is a good communicator and model yourself on them. You know, see what they do. How do they stand? You know, where do they have those conversations? Do they have them at the front door, or, you know, the front door of the room, or do they try and have them in a different place? Do they try and have them at particular times? Do they make particular times to meet with parents? Do they have a particular way of holding themselves? Do they show a particular thing on their face when they're talking about it? These might seem like little tiny things in terms of communication, but we need to think about that in order to become effective communicators. The other thing that educators can do is to actually engage in some professional learning about communication, to actually sit down as a team and think about what is our communication style, how do we tackle difficult issues, to be very clear about that process.
When families and educators collaborate, work together, share information, share questions, share concerns, each of them builds up a more complete picture of the child. They learn, quite simply, they learn from each other, and they learn things that they would never find out otherwise.